discussed about the manpower training, we discussed about the resources. Dr. Soin, before I could speak on the hepatobiliary surgery, mentioned about the concerns. So I would be generally a brief talk on how did we start, how did we go in a stepwise manner, and where are we today, and what is the future which would lie in front of us. Firstly, why did we start thinking of robotic liver surgery? Although the term robot, it looks fascinating for a layman, for a doctor, everybody, the term robotic is a big fascination. But we thought that because we are a high volume hepatobiliary center, we run a busy transplant unit, we have a fair bit of experience with laparoscopy, and we thought that we were very convinced over different meetings that the robotics has certain inherent advantages. I would like to mention Dr. Bhandari's name. He was the initial person who wanted to impress upon us the idea of robotics, the advantages that it had, and I think we liked the idea and we thought that we should try to develop the robotic hepatobiliary surgery at the institute. As mentioned by the previous talks also, what we did was, initially we just wanted to orient ourselves. I think these would be the steps. If anybody else wants to start the unit, these would be the steps. They will also have to think similarly, and then after a stage they would be on their own. We did literature reviews. We wanted to know about robots, the technology, how it works. Then we had academic presentations. We have a routine academic presentation in the department. We dedicated a small part of the presentation to the robotics, and then the entire team kind of geared up for the robot, and we had chairs. So there was a background of robotics in the institute. There were trained people. We could see the meetings. We could see how the robot works. So that went to our advantage. And then, as mentioned before, we generally planned out a way to start it. We thought we should first go for a basic training. We went to a basic training at IRCAD. They taught us about the robot, docking, putting it on, putting it off, emergency de-docking, just the basic things. I'm sure these things. So we, in a systematic way, learned the basics. Then after the basics, when we felt a little confident, we thought we should have a formal clinical course, and we thought who best than the master himself. We went to Grosseto, where Professor Julian Noti, who is almost, I would say, the main pioneer, not only for hepatobiliary but generally hepatic surgeries. He runs a school and he conducts courses once a year and sometimes twice a year. So we went for 2 days training. Day 1 was dedicated to hepatic surgery, where apart from the side wet lab which was running, he demonstrated a case of a tumor in the left hepatectomy, and he was real-time operating, and we were sitting, we could ask questions. So that was a very good learning experience. How did he dock, the way he used to dissect, the instruments that he used to manipulate. So it was a very interactive for us, the team. And the next day was pancreatic surgery. He showed a live Whipples. He could complete a Whipple in 6, 7, 8 hours, and we could see the different steps. That showed us so many things. That showed us the use of the instruments, the manipulation of the endo-wristed instruments that he does. That showed us the way he sutures the blood vessels. I would say that the most important impression that we got was that the robot is almost like a replication of the open surgery. I mean, you keep the same principles. If there is a blood vessel, if it is small, we like to clip. If it is big, you like to transfix. So the same things he does. So that gave us a little more confidence. And I think compared to laparoscopy, robotic is easier to learn, although there would be many other concerns. Then we had basic setups at our institute. We had robotic OT already working. We had a staff which was kind of trained. So basic issues we did not see. The only other thing is, we had to think all these things in terms of hepatobiliary surgery. The instruments that we might need, the use of the instruments, the use of clips, the use of the laparoscope. We thought about the possible uses of the instruments as applied to hepatobiliary surgery, and as well as the laparoscopic work that we do were combined with the robotic, and then we formulated a plan. Then we started with our initial experience. Right from the beginning, we thought that because one, we are new, the other thing is the specialty is new, so the safety was of the prime concern. Never before beginning of the procedure, in fact initially we were always conscious that we would not complete the procedure, we would keep, so completing the procedure was never our aim, even still it is not the aim. We want to go step by step, one step at a time. I still will recall the first case when we did not know where to put the ports, how to dock, which port will behave what way. So we deliberately thought that we'll go slow and safety is the first thing. I would just briefly mention about the 6 cases that we have done so far. All of them have been robotic assisted cases. We have not completed any case. We could have completed 1 or 2, but then as I mentioned, we wanted to be slow and precise before. We have done 6 robotic assisted cases. 3 cases are donor hepatectomies. All of them have been left lateral segmentectomies. We purposely did not choose right and left lobe because they are bigger procedures. The hilar dissection is significant, and then the transaction line is bigger, as well as, so we deliberately chose 3 left lateral segmentectomies, well informed to the donor and the family about the safety, about the concerns, and the possible, we told all of them that probably we would be converting to open. We did 3 donor hepatectomies, I'll mention about the details, and then we also did 3 hepatobiliary surgeries. In fact, to be true, we thought that we will do maybe 10, 15 or 20 cases hepatobiliary before we even think of donor. But I think it is that way it is not practical, because you can't just wait for doing non-donor surgeries. Plus our urology colleagues, they gave us the idea that when they started learning, the same impression was given to them that you have to do non-donor cases before embarking on donors. But as mentioned by them, they said that fair bit of learning they did on donors also, because the planes are good. So in some senses, donors are a high stakes surgery, but the planes are better. Learning is maybe a little better compared to a complex hepatobiliary case. The 3 cases I'll mention in the detail, I'll mention now. The first case was a case when we attempted was a polycystic disease. There was a large cyst in segment 7, there was cyst in pancreatic head, and they had obstructive jaundice. The entire operation which was planned for the patient was cholecystectomy, de-roofing of the liver cyst, and Roux-en-Y hepatic angiostomy. We thought with the multiple cysts, we did not think about removing the pancreatic head cyst or doing Whipples. What we did was we did robotic cholecystectomy. We could mobilize localize the cyst. We tried attempting de-roofing, but then once we thought that time taking is getting more and the safety may be compromised, then we converted. Every case we learned certain things. Just cholecystectomy may be the basic most procedure, but then putting the port, removal of the instrument, reinsertion of the instrument, handling the forearms, so all those things. So with first case we achieved those things. Then the next case which we did was a small tumor which was located in the segment 2 and 3. The operation planned was left lateral segmentectomy. The patient was child say cirrhotic. He was otherwise fit for resection. We thought we'll try to because the aim was to ultimately try these things in a donor. So we thought we'll try robotically, and if not safe, we'll convert. What this time we did was we did portal dissection, and we did it the way it is done in donors. Meaning we dissected cleanly, we preserved the vascular length, we looped all the structures, we minimally handled the vascular things, and we did not do it like destructive hepatectomy, meaning if you get the artery, you clip the artery and you finish it off and then you go for the vein. So we did like that. We could do the porta. That again gave us the confidence that at least portal dissections can be done. Then we had 3 cases of donors that we did. Again, we started earlier what the portal dissection used to take 40-45 minutes. We started early. It was safe. And then all the 3 cases, this case, we could go up to certain extent. The other case, we did almost 40 to 50% of the parenchymal transaction. And then the last case that we have done almost 60 to 70% of the parenchymal transaction. All the cases, had we persisted, maybe we could have gone further. But I think that is the future aim, to completely do donor robotically. The other thing I would like to just mention passing by is we have also started doing donor hepatectomies using midline incision. So normally we would have done almost 80-90 midline donors. So the real advantage of laparoscopy or robotic is if we can do the entire thing robotically and take it out phalansteal incision, then it is the real advantage, because otherwise if we take it out through a midline, either way we are doing through the open. So we want to be slow, we want to progress slowly, and we have done almost 60 to 70% transaction, and then we thought near the vessels we should not attempt, and then we retracted back. The other case just to mention was a case of CA gallbladder, and we thought this time we will complete the procedure and we will do radical cholecystectomy, because this procedure is slightly better suited to robotic dissections. We did the cholecystectomy and we sent the specimen for frozen section, and to everybody's delight, the frozen section was negative. The mass was actually not malignant, so we abandoned. So these are the 6 cases that we have done. Just to mention that compared to the other robotic surgery, the instrumentations used for hepatobiliary surgery is more. Normally, I'm not very sure, but for gynecology or urology, 2 or 3 instruments are needed. But for hepatic surgery, the instrumentation use is quite high. We'll use 3 or 4 instruments, then we'll have to use harmonic scalpel, which is costly, and we'll have to use needle holders, then we'll have to use hemologs, vasculars. So the instrumentation generally to be used for hepatobiliary cases are more. With all these small beginning, what we have done is we have got ourselves, the team, the operating room people familiarized with the robot. We have been concerned, there are different aspects of the logistic that we have been exposed to, the cost, the instrumentation change, the time, blood loss, anesthesia. So all these things, slowly we are getting used to. We have built confidence, and I think we are quite hopeful of the future that we will be able to complete the procedures. These are the concerns which Dr. Soin has already explained in detail. The future directions, as we could see now, is that probably we would use more robot for hepatobiliary surgeries. The concerns are cost is more, the time is more, but I think there are inherent advantages of robotic surgery, and slowly the cost and the expertise will grow, the time will come down. There would be benefits of giving robotic surgery to hepatobiliary procedures. We would also like to do hybrid procedures. The question you were asking, Dr. Barbar, up to a limit we can do robotically, and then transactions, because CUSA is there laparoscopic, so can we do the donor part laparoscopically and then convert. So all of these are the things. The ultimate future which I see as of now would be to do a right or left donor hepatectomy completely robotically and then give a Fenton steel, and then. So at least see the psychological impact of scar on a donor is big. So if donor, although the primary intention of giving a liver is never a scar, but the better scar you give them, they would be definitely, it would be the big advantage. So that is what I just wanted to mention. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. Ravi had to go off to catch a flight, but Amit and Rahul and myself and Professor Barbar are here to discuss anything further. Any questions? Yeah.
So I'm Dr. Vivek Gindal. It was a nice presentation regarding your initial learning curve in robotic surgery. We also went to Grosseto and trained under Dr. Giulianati, and then we are also in the initial learning curve. We did 5 cases including 2 cholecystectomies and 3 hysterectomies. But what I am concerned is about the cost. Like for the 5 cases, we did not take anything extra from the patient apart from the routine laparoscopy stuff. So what are you doing for the costs? Are you charging them extra, or for the learning curve you are not charging them anything extra?
Well, we have an agreement with the hospital management and the Vattikuti Institute. There is a Medanta Vattikuti, robotic institute, that the first 20 cases in each specialty will be subsidized to any degree necessary. So the cost that I actually spelled out was approximately 90,000 to 1 lakh extra, but only, I believe, 3 of the patients paid the full cost extra and the others were subsidized.
This cost issue is brought up a lot. I think we have to be realistic that, especially in the learning curve, these cases are going to be more expensive. And yes, we have issues with the robot. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be improved, but just the beginning. And as the instruments become smaller, more articulating instruments, I think everything's going to be much more easier to do. And I think we have to evaluate the technology, but as your team has shown, that we have to have a good plan. I mean, you're a big center, you know how to do open surgery really well, so your center is going to be very successful about this. But I don't have any doubts about it, because you follow the very realistic and safe approach as well. So this needs to be evaluated, at least in your center, in big centers, and eventually as the technologies get better, that all these issues might not be so important. I mean, the cost might go down, or the benefits might be so advanced that the cost. So initially, I think the cost is going to be higher. No wonder about that. But I think we have to do it. At least, I don't advocate doing this for every patient, but it's like, as academic surgeons, a group of us has to evaluate this.
I think is Professor Bhandari here? No.
Yes.
Right. One of the problems I would just request you to comment on, Professor Bhandari, is that instrumentation improvement is basically going to happen once the company gets the impression that they're going to be used in mass or en masse, right? By a large number of surgeons. Now, for them to be used by a large number of surgeons, a large number of surgeons have to get used to doing robotic procedures. So what I'm saying is it's a catch-22 situation that you without the let's say a wristed harmonic, you will not be doing resections so conveniently or so frequently, or let's say without the QSAR, you will not be doing donor hepatectomies very frequently. But unless you do frequent hepatectomies in many centers, you may not actually get the QSAR. So which comes first?
I think the major carry-home message from your logistic, because I requested Amit, because we reach to the other end, but we forget about the process, which could be really eye-opening for the rest of the people, is that this proves the point per se was made purposeless by the company. They didn't know where it would be used. It is the stretch of imagination and diligence of surgeons you see this spectrum. And that's where I say that liver surgery has been, when I searched, I found Dr. Berber is one of the few people involved in liver surgery, Chindanati, Berber, Zuan. So, and to answer your question, I'll give a simile of what we did with partial nephrectomy. You should know that most of the techniques of partial nephrectomy were developed by Vertical Urology Institute. When we started in 2007, there were only 6 partial nephrectomies which were done. There was one publication from